My husband asked his ex to be a bridesmaid, and I only found out at the rehearsal dinner. Weddings are full of surprises, but some surprises don't come wrapped in ribbon. Some come dressed in satin. Standing beside you at the altar. In today's AITA story, a bride-to-be walks into her rehearsal dinner, excited, nervous, full of love, until she sees a very familiar face across the room. His ex, not as a guest, not as a cousin's plus one, but as a bridesmaid. And when she turns to her fiancé, shocked and confused, he says, "I didn't tell you, because I knew you'd overreact." So now she's wondering, was she disrespected, or is she truly being unreasonable? And Reddit, as always, they had strong opinions. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I got married last month. We had a medium-sized wedding at a vineyard just outside San Diego. Beautiful venue, rustic charm, sunset, backdrop. I thought it would be the perfect start to our life together. My husband, Adam, 30M, and I had been dating for 4 years, engaged for almost 1. He's funny, stable, thoughtful, but sometimes he keeps things to himself. I used to think it was just because he didn't like conflict. Now I think it's because he doesn't always want to hear how I feel. We had some minor disagreements during planning. Nothing major. Guest list, drama, minor, budget, stuff. But one thing I was clear about from the start was this: I don't want exes involved in our wedding party. I wasn't trying to be jealous. I just wanted the people standing beside us to be our people, not memories from before us. Adam said, "Don't worry, I totally get it. End of story." Or so I thought. The day before the wedding, we had a casual rehearsal dinner outdoors, string lights, wine and pizza. I was buzzing with nerves and excitement. Adam introduced me to the last bridesmaid I hadn't met in person yet. He said, "Hey, this is Natalie. She flew in this morning." I turned, smiled politely, and froze. Because Natalie was his ex-girlfriend, not a distant ex, not a high school fling. They dated seriously for 3 years, right before he met me. I tried to stay calm. I pulled him aside and asked, "Why is she here?" "As a bridesmaid." He looked genuinely uncomfortable and said, "She's one of my oldest friends. She helped me through a lot. I wanted her to be part of the day, but I knew you'd get upset." "So, I didn't tell you," I asked. "You didn't think I deserved a say," he replied. "You said no exes. But Natalie's different. It's not romantic. She's like family. I didn't want to fight over something that doesn't matter anymore. But to me, it did matter. It mattered that he made a decision he knew I wouldn't be okay with and kept it from me. It mattered that he let me find out in front of 40 people with a fake smile and a wine glass in my hand. I didn't make a scene. I smiled. I played along. But that night in the hotel room, I cried in the bathroom for 2 hours. I still married him, but I haven't stopped thinking about it. Every time I look at our wedding photos, I see Natalie in her matching dress, laughing, posing, standing 2 feet away from me at the altar. I told Adam a week after the honeymoon that I'm still hurt. He said, "You're making this a bigger deal than it is. Natalie is out of the picture romantically, completely. You got everything you wanted. Don't let this one detail ruin it." But it doesn't feel like one detail. It feels like a red flag. A test I didn't know I was taking, and maybe failed just by not walking away. So, Reddit, I need to know. Am I the asshole for still being upset that my husband secretly made his ex a bridesmaid and never told me until the night before our wedding? Weddings are full of emotion, nervous joy, excitement, anticipation, and sometimes silent heartbreak. But at the core of every wedding is one crucial idea: mutual trust, shared decision-making. And when that trust is shaken, not by betrayal but by omission, it leaves a bruise that doesn't fade with the honeymoon. Let's start with her side. For the bride, this wasn't about jealousy. She didn't object to the idea of her husband having a past. She objected to being excluded from a choice that clearly crossed a line they had previously agreed on. She told him clearly, "I don't want exes involved in our wedding party." And he said, "Don't worry, I get it." But then he did it anyway, quietly, secretly. He told himself it wasn't romantic, so it didn't count. But here's the thing. When someone makes a decision knowing they have to hide it from you, it's already a problem. He didn't just invite Natalie, he chose to protect her. Comfort over his wife's emotional safety on her own wedding weekend. Now let's consider his perspective. Maybe to Adam, Natalie wasn't an ex, she was part of his history, someone who helped him grow. He may have believed that by including her, he was honoring that part of himself, that it was harmless, that she wasn't a threat, and in his mind, telling his bride might have caused unnecessary conflict, so he kept the peace. On the surface anyway. But here's the truth. Avoiding conflict isn't the same as protecting your relationship. Sometimes by trying not to upset someone, we end up hurting them even more. So what's the real issue here? It's not about Natalie. It's about what her presence symbolized. That when it came down to a hard emotional decision, he didn't trust his wife enough to include her in it. And when you take away someone's voice in the most important day of their life, it lingers long after the vows are spoken. So we ask you, was she right to still be upset even after the wedding? Or was he justified in keeping the peace, thinking he was avoiding drama? Or maybe this isn't a question of right or wrong. Maybe it's a reminder that honesty isn't just about telling the truth. It's about sharing decisions that shape the life you're building together. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll feature the most insightful takes in our next episode. Because sometimes, it's not who stands at the altar with you. It's who chose to stand there without telling you why. When this story dropped on Reddit, the comments section lit up. Not because someone cheated, not because someone got caught, but because someone made a choice and didn't share it. For many, that was the deepest betrayal of all. Not the asshole. He hid the truth because he knew it was wrong. This group firmly stood behind the bride. To them, this wasn't about jealousy or insecurity, it was about consent in partnership. Top Reddit comments. He knew she wouldn't be okay with it. That's why he didn't tell her that's not love. That's avoidance. At boundaries mean respect. Klaus 42, 1K upvotes. You didn't overreact. You underreacted. Finding out your husband made his ex a bridesmaid the night before your wedding is emotional sabotage. At I would walk out. 38. 9K upvotes. If he truly saw Natalie as family, then he should have introduced her and talked about it openly. The secrecy says it all. At trust is the issue. Plus 35, 4K upvotes. With this group, the core issue wasn't Natalie's role. It was how it was handled. To them, trust broken quietly is still trust broken completely. YTA, she overreacted to something harmless. Others came to the groom's defense, claiming that his actions, while poorly communicated, weren't rooted in malice. They argued that intention matters and that the bride let emotion cloud the context. Top Reddit comments. He didn't cheat. He didn't lie about still loving her. He just didn't want to fight over someone who means nothing romantically. That's not betrayal. At chill. Before you judge. Thla 22. 6K upvotes. I get why she was upset, but to carry that pain into the honeymoon and beyond. Sometimes we have to pick our battles. This wasn't worth the scar. At intentions matter. 23K upvotes. She got the wedding she wanted. One mistake doesn't mean her marriage is doomed. Talk it out like adults. At Grow Together, plus 18, 1K upvotes. This group emphasized forgiveness and communication. They saw the groom as misguided, not malicious, and they believed the bride should focus on the big picture he married her, not the neutral take. When secrecy speaks louder than words, he made a decision for her, not with her. She felt blindsided, but neither of them truly talked. This wasn't about Natalie, it was about control, silence, and fear of honesty. Silent choice. Loud impact, plus 45, 7K upvotes. It recognized that no one wanted to hurt the other. They just didn't know how to speak the truth without risking a storm. Final question for the audience. Was the bride right to feel betrayed by omission, even if there was no romantic intent? Or did the groom simply try to avoid unnecessary drama and get caught in the crossfire of poor timing? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'll highlight the most powerful replies in our next episode. Because sometimes, the issue isn't who stood at the altar with you. It's who made that decision without your consent. AITA. Story number 14. I refused to let my mother-in-law wear white to my wedding. So she didn't show up. There's a reason white is sacred at weddings. It's not just tradition. It's a symbol of purity, new beginnings, and whose day it really is. But what happens when someone tries to wear white, knowing it's not their moment? In today's story from Yims, The Asshole, a bride finds herself in a quiet war with her future mother-in-law. A woman who's elegant, outspoken, and never been told no. Until now, the bride made one request. Please don't wear white. The mother-in-law replied, It's ivory, it's classy. I'm not changing. The day of the wedding came. Everyone was there except her. And now the family says the bride overreacted and ruined the relationship. So who crossed the line? Was this really about a dress or a deeper fight for control? I'm a 27-year-old woman, and I just got married 2 months ago. The wedding was beautiful, intimate, and honestly, everything I dreamed it would be. Except for one thing, my mother-in-law didn't come. Her name is Denise. She's 59, elegant, confident, and the kind of person who has a presence when she walks into a room. From the beginning, I knew she was going to be a lot. She doesn't like being told what to do, and she's used to being the center of attention, especially around her son, my now husband, Riemann 30mm. We had a decent relationship, not warm, but respectful. I always tried to include her, invited her to dress fittings, asked her opinions about the venue, even let her plan the rehearsal dinner menu. But the tension started when she sent me a photo of the dress she planned to wear to our wedding. It was long, it was fitted. It was ivory silk, strapless, floor length. Basically, a bridal gown. I replied politely, Hey, Denise, that dress is stunning, but would you mind picking something in a different color? I'm a little traditional, and I'd really prefer to be the only one in white or ivory. She didn't respond for a whole day. When she did, it was a one-liner. It's not white. It's cream, and I already bought it. I tried to smooth things over. I said, I totally get that. It's technically cream, but it photographs really close to white. It would mean a lot to me if you'd consider another option. She called me that night. She was calm, but ice cold. You're being insecure. No one is going to mistake me for the bride. I've raised a man you're about to marry. The least you can do is let me wear a dress I feel beautiful in. I held firm. I told her I'd love to help her find something equally elegant, just not in ivory cream or anything too bridal-looking. That's when she said, If you're going to police my outfit, maybe I don't belong at your wedding. I was stunned. I didn't say anything. We didn't speak again until the week of the wedding, 3 days before the ceremony. Ryan sat me down and said, Mom's still planning to wear the dress. I asked him, Are you okay with that? He looked torn, genuinely. But eventually he said, "I think we should just let it go. It's not worth the drama that hurt." Not because he picked her side, but because he asked me to be quiet about something that really mattered to me. I told him I wasn't going to make a scene, but if she showed up in that dress, she wouldn't be in the wedding photos, and I meant it. The day of the wedding came. Guests arrived, the music started, but Denise never showed. After the ceremony, Ryan checked his phone and saw a message from her. "I won't be coming. I don't support being disrespected in front of the entire family." I didn't cry. I didn't panic. But I felt this tight, silent grief settle over the whole day. Not just for me, but for Ryan, too. He tried to hide it, but he looked shaken in every photo. Since the wedding, Denise has been telling extended family that I'm controlling, immature, and starting the marriage off by dividing the family. Ryan is stuck in the middle. He says he understands why I was hurt, but that maybe I should have let it go for the sake of peace. So now I'm asking Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my mother-in-law wear a white ivory dress to my wedding, knowing it would cause a family rift? At first glance, this might seem like a petty conflict about a dress, but take a closer look, and you'll see it's not about fabric color or formality. It's about power, boundaries, and what happens when someone is used to getting their way. And suddenly doesn't. Let's start with the bride. She didn't demand anything outrageous. She made a simple, clear, respectful request. Please don't wear white or ivory to my wedding, not because she was trying to control, but because she wanted the day to reflect a tradition that mattered to her. The bride wears white. Everyone else celebrates her. And when her future mother-in-law pushed back, it wasn't a conversation, it was a power struggle. Because Denise wasn't just choosing a dress. She was choosing to test how far she could push and how much space she could take up. And when she didn't get her way, she didn't compromise. She didn't show up. And that silence, that empty chair became louder than any argument. Now let's look at the husband and his position in the middle. Ryan didn't ask for this drama. He probably hoped everyone would just get along. But neutrality in moments like this isn't safety, it's silence. When he said, "It's not worth the drama," he was asking his fiancée to sacrifice her comfort for the sake of keeping the peace. And here's the hard truth. Peace that comes at the cost of one person's dignity isn't peace at all. So what's the real conflict here? It's not white dress versus cream dress. It's this: when someone shows you they're willing to miss your wedding to prove a point. What does that say about how they see your marriage? Denise didn't just miss the wedding. She sent a message not by text, but by absence. If you don't let me have control, I won't show you support. And for many people, that's not about etiquette. That's emotional manipulation. So we ask you, was the bride right to stand her ground? Even if it fractured the family, or should she have let it go and picked her battles more wisely? Or maybe this was never about dresses, respect, or even the wedding. Maybe it was the start of a deeper question. What happens when you marry someone and realize their family expects to keep first place? Share your take in the comments. We'll feature the most thoughtful replies in our next story. Because sometimes, the loudest drama at a wedding isn't what people wear. It's what they refuse to show up for. When this story reached Reddit, the response was overwhelming. People had strong opinions, not just about dresses, but about boundaries, control, and emotional maturity. Not the asshole. It was never about the dress. This group believed the bride was completely in the right, that Denise's absence wasn't a reaction. It was a power move, and that setting boundaries early was necessary for survival in that family. Top Reddit comments. If someone would rather skip your wedding than change their outfit, they were never there to support you anyway. AITA draw the line early, +41, 2K upvotes. It's not about the color, it's about her needing to be the most important woman in the room and not being able to handle it when she wasn't. It wasn't Ivory, plus 38, 6K upvotes. Good on you for standing up for yourself. Because once the wedding's over, these battles don't stop. They just change shape. Future boundaries matter. Plus 33, 9K upvotes. This camp asserts the bride is not just protecting her wedding day. She is laying the foundation for a marriage that respects personal boundaries. She was petty, but so were you. Others thought both women handled it poorly, that this was a war of egos more than values. They questioned whether drawing that hard of a line was worth it. Top Reddit comments. She should have compromised, but so should you. Nobody wins when both sides would rather be right than be together. 2 stubborn women plus 19. 5K upvotes. This was a hill you didn't need to die on. If she wore the dress, people would have gossiped for 5 minutes. But now, you have a permanent family rift at Let. Slide, sometimes plus 17 8K upvotes. It's not controlling to have boundaries, but it becomes controlling when you're more focused on the symbol than the relationship. Traditions Peace plus 16 4K upvotes. This side sees it this way: hurt comes from both sides, and instead of understanding each other, they choose to assert personal power. Neutral take. The dress was a distraction from a deeper issue. She didn't skip the wedding because of a dress. She skipped it because, for the first time, she couldn't control the room, and that scared her. The dress was just the excuse. At respect goes. Both ways plus 46 1K upvotes. This comment got the most upvotes because it looks directly at what many people feel, but are afraid to say. There are people who find boundaries offensive because they are not used to being rejected. In AL, question to the audience. Was the bride right to hold her ground even if it cost her a relationship? Or should she have let it go for one day to avoid lasting family fallout? Let us know what you would have done in her shoes. We feature the most thoughtful responses in our next episode, because sometimes it's not about the dress, it's about the message hidden in the fabric. AITA story number 15. My maid of honor used her speech to expose my husband's affair, and everyone thinks I knew. Every wedding has a moment where the room goes still. Sometimes it's the kiss, sometimes it's the first dance, and sometimes it's the maid of honor standing up with shaking hands, holding a piece of paper she wasn't supposed to read. In today's AITA story, a bride sits smiling beside her new husband, unaware that the mic is about to be handed to her best friend. A woman who's been holding on to a truth for months. A truth about the groom. A truth about a girl named Lexi. A truth she can no longer keep quiet about. The room fell silent. The champagne stopped flowing, and the bride. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply looked at her husband and said, "Is it true?" Now the internet is wondering, was this bravery or betrayal? I'm a 29-year-old woman, and just over a month ago, I married my longtime partner, James, 32M. We'd been together for nearly 6 years. We met in grad school, built our careers side by side. Bought a house together last year. I thought we were rock solid. My best friend, Tessa 30F, has known me since we were 12. She's the type of person who doesn't sugarcoat anything. She's honest, sometimes brutally and fiercely protective of the people she loves. When James proposed, Tessa cried harder than I did. I didn't hesitate to make her my maid of honor. She helped me with everything: dress shopping, guest list, chaos, dealing with my mother's meltdowns. But 2 weeks before the wedding, something in her shifted. She started acting distant. She missed a couple meetings. When I asked what was wrong, she brushed it off. Just work. Stress. Nothing you need to worry about right now. I believed her. The wedding day arrived. Everything was picture perfect. I walked down the aisle. James cried when he saw me. We said our vows. We kissed. I felt like I was floating. Dinner came, toasts began. My dad went first, then James's sister. Then it was Tessa's turn. She stood up holding a piece of paper. Her hands were visibly shaking. She started with a smile. I've known Bride for 17 years. She's my best friend, my other half, and my constant. She deserves the world, and I know she thought she found it in James. I remember laughing at that line, everyone did. But then her tone shifted. I didn't want to be the person to say this. But the truth is, if I were in her shoes, I would want someone to tell me. The room got quiet. I felt my stomach drop. Tessa took a breath, and then she said, James, I know about Lexi. I know you've been seeing her behind Bride's back for at least 6 months. I found the messages. I saw the photos. I spoke to someone who works with her. You could hear a pin drop. Then came the murmurs. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely think. She looked directly at me. I'm sorry I tried to stay out of it, but I couldn't let you marry him without knowing. I didn't say a word. I turned and looked at James. His face was pale, frozen. And all he said was, we can talk about this later. That was enough for me. I stood up, walked out of the reception hall, and went straight to the bridal suite. Tessa followed me. I hugged her so tight I thought we'd both collapse. I asked her when she found out. She said she'd been suspicious for months, but confirmed it 2 weeks before the wedding. She hadn't known what to do and waited until the last possible second, hoping maybe it was nothing. But it wasn't. I didn't go back out that night. James didn't come looking for me. The party went on awkwardly for about an hour before it fizzled out. Since then, I've been staying at my sister's place. I haven't filed for divorce yet. I'm still in shock. James keeps texting me. He says what happened was a misunderstanding, that he and Lexi only vented to each other and nothing happened physically. But the texts Tessa showed me say otherwise. And honestly, even if it hadn't gotten physical, the betrayal was already complete. Here's the part I didn't expect. Some people are mad at me. My aunt said I embarrassed my husband. My mother-in-law hasn't spoken to me since. A few guests left early and told others, the bride must have known all along this was a setup, but it wasn't. I had no idea. I wanted to believe I was marrying my best friend. Instead, I got a mic drop in a wedding dress. So Reddit, I ask, am I the asshole for letting my maid of honor expose my husband at our wedding, even though I didn't know she was going to? Weddings are meant to be a celebration. A beginning, a promise, a moment where everything is laid bare, except betrayal. But in this story, someone did lay it bare. Not in private, not quietly, but into a microphone in front of 100 guests. So was it courage or chaos dressed up as protection? Let's start with the bride. She walked into her wedding day with love in her heart. She trusted her future husband. She trusted her best friend. And suddenly, she's caught in the middle of a truth she didn't ask for, on a night that was supposed to be the beginning of forever. What she experienced wasn't just heartbreak. It was public devastation. But here's what makes her story so powerful. She didn't explode. She didn't scream. She stood up, walked away, and protected her dignity. That kind of restraint isn't weakness. That's strength in its quietest, rawest form. Now let's talk about Tessa, the maid of honor. Did she overstep? Absolutely. Did she betray the perfect timing of a wedding toast? Yes. But here's the question. Was she wrong to speak the truth? Tessa sat on this secret for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of knowing her best friend might be marrying someone who didn't deserve her. 2 weeks of weighing silence versus eruption. And in the end, she chose eruption, not for revenge, not for drama, but because she couldn't watch her friend say "I do" to someone who had already said "I won't" behind closed doors. Some say it wasn't her place. Others say if not her, who else would have spoken up? So what's the real issue here? It's not about a wedding speech, it's about the impossible choice between do I protect this moment versus do I protect the person I love? And the reality is, sometimes you can't do both. Now, it's your turn. We want to hear from you. Was Tessa right to expose the truth, no matter the setting? Or did she cross a line and forever stain a day that should have belonged to the bride? Or maybe this is one of those moments where there's no right answer, only pain, only clarity, bought at the cost of celebration. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'll feature the most powerful perspectives in our next episode, because sometimes the worst thing isn't the betrayal. It's realizing everyone else assumed you already knew. This story exploded across Reddit, not just because of the betrayal, but because of how it was revealed. A wedding speech, a confession, a moment that turned love into silence. And Reddit had a lot to say. Not the asshole. She saved her friend. This group backed the bride, and especially the maid of honor. To them, what Tessa did wasn't sabotage, it was rescue. Top Reddit comments. She didn't ruin the wedding, James did. Tessa just refused to let the lie last a second longer. Truth over tradition, 546 2K upvotes. There is no perfect time to expose a cheater. She did it before vows turned into a legal prison. That's a real friend at Maid of Honor or Hero plus 42. 1K upvotes. Letting her marry him in silence would have been the real betrayal. This was brutal, but it was love at Real Ones Speak Up, plus 39. 7K. Upvotes. Supporters saw Tessa as brave, loyal, and unafraid to sacrifice her own comfort to protect someone she loved. They say this wasn't drama. This was integrity under pressure, YTA. Right. Message wrong, moment. Others agreed with the message, but not the method. They believed the speech crossed a line that can't be undone, no matter how justified it felt. Top Reddit comments. This was a wedding, not a courtroom. She humiliated the bride publicly, even if it was to protect her. Not like this, 23 8K upvotes. There is a fine line between loyalty and control. This could have waited 24 hours at Hard Truth, Wrong Time, plus 21 and 4K upvotes. If your goal is to protect you, don't nuke someone's entire wedding. You take her aside. You talk at Bombshell or Backstab, plus 20, 6K. Upvotes. This group doesn't defend the groom, but they question Tessa's decision to use the mic as a weapon, especially when the bride didn't see it coming. Neutral take. Truth and timing rarely align. She did the right thing, at the worst possible time. But when you're holding a truth that big, every second feels like betrayal at timing is a prison. 548, 9K upvotes. This comment received the highest upvotes across the thread because it recognized the pain on all sides, not to justify but to explain. Sometimes loyalty costs you peace, and silence costs someone their future. Final question for the audience. If you were, Tessa, would you have spoken up? Would you have waited? Or kept it to yourself forever? Drop your take in the comments. We'll feature the best responses in our next video, because sometimes the hardest truths come wrapped in ribbons and vows. And the people who love us most are the ones who won't let us walk into fire, even if it means setting the room on fire to stop us.